Welcome to the Pre-Snap Podcast presented by LineStar, your top 5 NFL player prop bets for Week 10 in the NFL. Alongside Tyler Wiemann, I'm Shannon Sommerville. We've got some great picks for you. We're using the LineStar PropsAI tool to help us find the best value. If you haven't checked it out already, make sure to do so. PropsAI is on LineStarApp.com, so you can check that out. And if you are playing your prop bets somewhere like Underdog, Sleeper, Chalkboard, and Parlay Play, and you haven't downloaded those apps yet, we've got links below. Use the promo code LineStar when you first download them so you can get a nice deposit match. Plus, you can get 1 free month of the LineStar app, so it's a great way to check out that software. If you haven't already, make sure to use that promo code LineStar. That's the key there. And before we get into our picks, like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment below, because not only does that help us out on YouTube, it also helps you out because if we go 5 for 5 like we did just last week, one randomly selected commenter will win $100. Basically, we put all of these picks on an entry, and if we go 5 for 5, we're just giving out the winnings of that ticket to a randomly selected commenter as a thank you for you guys tuning in each and every week and, you know, hearing from you guys in the comments. We really appreciate it. So hopefully if you guys have any locks, you'll drop those as well. If you'd be so generous as to do that. We're all trying to help each other out and beat the books. It's week 10, halfway through the season. Hopefully we can rack up some funds here. Holiday season is right around the corner. I know everybody's, getting ready for Black Friday. So let's get ready with some good picks this week. Now, last week we do have some to make up for. 2 weeks ago, we were 5-0 in our picks. Last week, a little regression, 1-4 in our picks. We got kind of burned by that Indianapolis Colts game. We basically went and stacked that game and didn't pan out for us. But this week, Tyler, I'm feeling good about our picks. All right, let's get into it for week 10. And we're actually starting off in an area that did pretty well for us last week when we took Travis Kelce over on his receiving yards. So we're going to George Kittle this week over on his receiving yards at 58.5. LineStar's projection for Kittle this week against the Tampa Bay Bucks is 66.1. Kittle's averaging just under 72 receiving yards per game, and he's been over in 4 of 7. He's been an absolute beast. He's been awesome for fantasy purposes as well, but for this particular play, we only need him to surpass 58.5 receiving yards against a Tampa Bay defense that just allowed our boy Travis Kelce to go over 100 receiving yards. What do you make of this play here for Kittle?
I mean, San Francisco offense as a whole is kind of back. I expect some explosive games out of them. Juwan Jennings expected back. Debo's expected back. Kittle's getting healthier. But then as far as this spot in particular, Kelce, 100 last week. Pitts has had 91 and 88 versus them. Mark Andrews, Juwan Johnson were both under, but, they aren't the receiving back or tight ends that the others are. But Tampa Bay is 32nd versus tight end on our team defense tool. But to go along with that, Brock Purdy is in a great spot where Tampa Bay is 32nd versus the quarterback also. So Purdy's in a good spot. Kittle's in a good spot. And when those two things come together, generally good things happen. Tampa Bay has allowed 69.7 receiving yards to the tight end over the last 9.
And another good game environment. We have a very high game total, 50.5. And I believe that San Francisco favored by 6.5 in this one. On the road, though, I think Baker Mayfield likes to push the pace a little bit. So I think we'll definitely, see some passing from Brock Purdy, and George Kittle's just been an absolute monster. One of the yak kings of the NFL. He's awesome, but I like the spot here for receiving yards against that Tampa Bay Bucks defense that we already cashed a prop with our boy Travis Kelce just this past week. So let's roll there again. All right, next up, we're going to the Chiefs side of things. How about DeAndre Hopkins over 51.5 receiving yards? Juju Smith-Schuster is still listed as a DNP as of Thursday, so Hopkins could get some more looks. He had 86 receiving yards last week in his second game with the Kansas City Chiefs, and this week he's going up against a Denver defense that is good, but they're 25th actually in pass defense DVOA versus wide receiver ones, which, Hopkins, you could consider him maybe depending on the injury situation there. Zay Flowers just had 127 against this Denver defense. Granted, they have a guy named Pat Surtain back in the fold here, but I still think that number is a little bit low considering the amount of times Patrick Mahomes was looking for DeAndre Hopkins in high leverage situations, mind you. What's your take on this line at 51.5?
Our team defense tool has, over the last 5 games, has Denver versus the wide receiver 1, 32nd in the league. So it is the best matchup that DeAndre Hopkins could get in this. Now, part of it was probably that Surtain was out for a game or two, and then he wasn't shadowing Zay last week. So maybe they do roll that coverage back to Hopkins and have Surtain on D-Hop. But I like the spot, and this 51 line is just so low for a guy of his caliber. He played 60% of the snaps last week. This week, I would expect 70, 75, maybe even over that. But he's good in a good spot. And if you were to tell me that a healthy D-Hop with Pat Mahomes, who is almost going to be a full go, only has a 51.5 line, I would have thought you were crazy at the beginning of the season.
Now, there are some weather concerns in this game. Does that put you off any passing props at all, or are you not taking too much account?
It looks like the wind is going to be light, and that is my main concern there. So as long as the wind is light and it stays that way, till Sunday, then I'm totally fine. If that wind really starts picking up and we get, 20 plus mile an hour, then that changes the tune a little bit.
All right. Well, just something to consider. Next up, let's go to the Pittsburgh Steelers and their running back, former Alabama running back, Najee Harris, over 63.5 rushing yards. LineStar's projection, 77.4. The consensus is 67.3. And Najee's averaging 74 rush yards per game. He's been a monster over in 6 of 8 games. He's been a beast going up against a Washington defense, though, that's been a little sneaky the past couple of weeks. Earlier in the season, we were crushing them with props, but over the past couple of weeks, kind of staying away. They've been looking a lot better. So, but the line here seems a little low for a guy like Harris, who's ripping off 100-yard games left and right. What do you think?
I mean, he's been good the last 3 games, 300-yard games in a row. Which just seems like Russell Wilson under center is helping him big time. And the D is allowing 115 yards a game. I like it. Washington is 29th versus the RB1. And then the part that, how we've talked about them getting better, they are 11th versus RB1 over the last 5. But similar to Breece Hall, how Breece Hall is in a good matchup for the receiving game, Harris is still in a positive matchup on the ground, so I like the spot for Najee.
All right, now it's time for you and I to give our best player prop picks for Week 10. So who are you rolling with?
I'm going with Alvin Kamara over 4.5 receiving yards. On some sports books, they're showing 5.5. That's at plus 120. I'm fine with that also. If your sports book allows you to ladder his receiving lines, I also like that. I think this is a spot where he really could put up a bunch of receptions. But LineStar projection is 5.2. Atlanta is 26 versus RB1. 5.8 receptions per game over the last 4 for Kamara. However, Atlanta is allowing 7.3 over that span. They have no Olave, no Shaheed. The backup RBs are banged up. He is going to get a huge workload. He had it last week. And in 5 of the last 6 games, he has had 6+ receptions. The one game that he didn't have 6+, he had 5. So I love the spot for Alvin Kamara. I love 4.5. I like 5.5. If you want to ladder it, go for it.
Yeah, and the other side of this, too, I was looking at Atlanta's injury report, and they've got a lot of key defenders like Grady Jarrett, people like that are kind of banged up right now. So that could be a good spot to play. It also could be a good spot to play because I know they fired their head coach, which you'd think you'd stay off of the Saints in general. But a lot of times, Tyler, as you've seen in the betting markets, teams play well following the firing of a head coach, especially maybe in the situation with Dennis Allen, where there was a lot of talk about a rift in the locker room. And so they could play so much better this week. That's an interesting spot to kind of keep an eye on. But I like the spot here for your pick there with Kamara over 4.5 receptions. For mine, I'm going to my New York Jets. What am I doing? I'm just a masochist here, but we're going to Garrett Wilson either way because he's been a bright spot for this team. Over 68.5 receiving yards is what we're getting here. LineStar's projection 71.8, consensus projection 73.9. And this is a guy who's still averaging 73.7 receiving yards per game and has been over in 4 of the last 5 games. He is going up against an Arizona Cardinals defense that's been pretty good at limiting opposing wide receivers. The thing, though, is that they still rank 13th in pass defense DVOA versus wide receiver ones. And Garrett Wilson has put up big numbers against really good defenses before. And I think having seen the offense and what they're capable of, especially on Halloween against the Houston Texans defense, it's going to be hard for this Cardinals defense to contain both him and Davante Adams. If you'd rather go Davante Adams, I could see a path there for him getting over his receiving yards as well. But I just love Garrett Wilson, and that one-handed catch, man, in the end zone was just ridiculous. We're seeing him kind of break out and have these incredible performances. He's starting to kind of find his footing in this offense with the Jets and Davante Adams. They're starting to figure it out a little bit, and I think the Cardinals might have a tough time containing both him and Davante Adams in this one. My money's on Garrett Wilson. What do you think this week from a man, Garrett Wilson? Did you see that catch in the end zone? One-handed?
Oh, the catch was unbelievable. I think this situation is so interesting. I was really scared for Garrett Wilson once Adams came over. But yeah. I think what we may get is just both guys are 30-plus target percentage guys, and they're getting peppered with targets week in and week out, kind of more similar to how the Eagles run their offense, where it's 2 wide receivers that get pretty much everything.
Yeah, and I think what we saw last week was when they were trying to double Garrett, it would be Davante, and then they would kind of just switch back and forth, and it's kind of like a pick your poison type of situation, and which is what the Jets had hoped for when they brought over Davante Adams. It just didn't, kind of click right out of the gate, but it could start clicking, especially against this Cardinals defense. That's kind of they have shown good play, but they've been a little inconsistent, so I'm curious to see. Roma Dunze had over 100 last week, and you've just seen games like I was looking up pass receivers' performance. Like someday they limited DJ Moore to just 33. Tyreek had 72, so it's like, but there's always one receiver that's popping off for like 100, so it'll be interesting to see if that receiver is Garrett Wilson. I think it is going to be him. I think both him and Davante Adams could have good games here, but I'm hoping they do for my Jets. But let me know what you think in the comments. We're putting all of these together on an entry on Underdog and rolling the dice on a $10 flex. If we win, we get $100, and we're giving that out to a randomly selected commenter. So to enter the contest, like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment below. You're in it to win it. And if you've got any absolute locks for week 10, let me know in the comments. We're all trying to help each other out and beat the books. Let us know if you're tailing, if you're fading. Hey, do what you got to do, but make sure to check out the LineStar PropsAI tool when you're doing it. It'll help you tremendously in the prop market. And also check out Tyler's DFS breakdown for all you guys playing daily fantasy out there as well. And if you haven't as well, if you want more prop picks, guess what? We have a whole nother show, our Underdog Pick'em show, where we have 5 brand new picks. So make sure to check that one out as well. Good luck in week 10. May all of your prop bets cash. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.